what did you have to do to learn what was important to these people when you were communicating with them?
So I am definitely an avid reader. I jokingly say
Yeah.
I read 51 books in 2020, which means I was lazy for 1 week. And so when I got into network monitoring, when I got the job, the first thing I did was go out and buy a Network for Dummies book. And so I read the whole thing
Oh,
cover to
that's so
cover.
funny.
And I was like, all right,
Yeah.
teach me about networks. And so I learned a lot before I joined. I was very fortunate. It was an office job where you shared an office with an office mate, and my office mate was very technical and very good. And so he taught me a ton. The learning curve was actually relatively quick because when your whole job is getting meetings, you only need to know enough to hook them in to want to take a meeting. You don't have to know the
Hmm.
nuts and bolts. I tried to learn the nuts and bolts, and then I realized I probably knew more than I needed to know. And then when I became an account
Yeah.
manager, I was like, man, I don't know nearly enough. But the learning curve was easy because my first job was just go get meetings, and I would start with a hook to get attention as opposed to being like everybody else. I can't stand when somebody calls and says, "Hi, I'm Neil, and I work for blah blah blah. How's your day?" I am like, I don't want to talk
Yeah.
to you. So I would start with things like, are you the person that gets yelled at when there's a slowdown in the network? Because that's the network world is known as if there's a slowdown, they get yelled at. They're
Yeah.
guilty until proven innocent. So I found quick ways to get attention, quick ways to get people to take meetings.
Yeah.
It may not have been the most qualified meetings, but I was getting meetings early.
Help me more about that because we had an email exchange and you'd thrown us something, a couple of lines, and I was like, dude, that's brilliant. Because you're describing the problem. It's have you read Influence by Robert Cialdini? You seen that
Uh,
book?
I don't know if I have actually. I'm not sure. I don't think so.
So there's some really interesting things. There's like these six principles that he talks about, and it's really more of a marketing book than a sales book. But one of those principles for persuasion was this theory around likeness, and it wasn't being likable; it's appearing more like a peer, like someone that's in their world.
Yeah.
And when you talk about the problem, not only in their language, but you're able to crack a joke about
Yeah.
it like you did, it's just instant. It had to like instantly disarm the person, I would imagine.
Well, and that's the idea, right? I read all these books on sales. I read all these books on human human behavior, and I think the one thing I've always noticed, one is you have to be unique. If I get calls from charities every day of the week, and I get multiple because I'm the idiot that donated to hundreds instead of just one and giving them all my money, right? And so now they all call and they're like, "Oh, Neil, you donated last year. You're going to donate again." But it starts with, "Is this the head of household? Thank you for your donation last year." And I'm like, "Oh God." So, and that's how
Yeah.
most people get sales calls is you call and you're like, my name is Neil and I'm with XYZ company. How is your
Mhm.
day? I'd like to talk to you about. So I'm very big on the shock factor up front is say something that's going to get attention because even if they're angry, they're either going to laugh or they're going to at least be a little disarmed because it's not the same thing they just heard 5 minutes ago. So if you can get something relevant, ask your customers, right? Why did you buy? And then you start out the phone call with, I just talked to another hospital, just did something that I think would be relevant to you, right? Anything that's disarming when you get them on the phone and you're not the same as everybody else is going to take you light years ahead of your competition.